AI assistants are far more powerful than many people realize, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you some interesting app examples that demonstrate their power and versatility. But before we get started, as always, all the apps and all the resources that I talk about on this channel are going to be available to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And if you're still not a member of our amazing Patreon community, then definitely check it out using the first link in the description below the video. But first, what are AI assistants? You can think of AI assistants as customized ChatGPTs tailored to your specific needs. Imagine a ChatGPT that can process your data and follow specialized instructions to respond exactly as you would expect. So if you take a look at this diagram here, we have the first step here, which is to create an assistant. And when you're creating an assistant, you're essentially forking ChatGPT and feeding it with your custom data, and also you're providing it the ability to write code via this code interpreter. Last but not least, and this is something that I'm going to be talking about as well, you give it an ability to execute custom functions or external functions. Now, initially, when these AI assistants were launched, it was an amazing thing because now you can essentially fork your own ChatGPT, give it your own custom data, and also give it the ability to write and execute code as well. However, what made them truly revolutionary was when OpenAI added the ability to execute custom functions whenever these custom GPTs needed to do something, but the data as well as this code interpreter ability wasn't suffice to execute that request. And these custom functions can do just about anything from fetching a weather report to creating personalized shopping recommendations based on a customer's order history. But there is one small problem. To leverage this intelligence on demand, you need to be fairly technical. You don't need to be capable of writing an operating system from scratch, but you do need to know a couple of things. And this is where my favorite backend tool, BuildShip, comes into play. BuildShip lets you leverage this magic with an easy-to-use UI that even a beginner can use. Another benefit of using BuildShip is that you can create AI assistants not only with ChatGPT, but with a bunch of other LLMs, one being Anthropic's Claude AI. This gives you freedom since you can experiment with various LLMs, pick the LLM that works best for you, and even save some money in the process. And so instead of using ChatGPT, we're going to be using Anthropic's Claude 3 LLM exclusively in today's video. And so to start things off, I want to show you 3 cool proof of concept apps that use this assistant functionality that I built with BuildShip. The first app that I want to show you is a quiz maker. You're probably aware that you can easily generate all kinds of quizzes using regular ChatGPT, but did you know that with the help of these assistants, you can generate a quiz, save it to a database of your choice in a structured format, and then load the entire quiz in your app? And this is exactly what I did. So here we are inside of BuildShip, and as you can see on the left-hand side, we have various flows that I built that I'm going to be demonstrating in today's video. And so the first thing that I want to show you is this quiz right here. Okay, now we start off with a regular REST API, and this is a trigger, and this means that whenever we get a request, this whole workflow executes. Okay, and so the purpose of this trigger here is to get the information about the kind of quiz that we're going to be generating, basically what the quiz is going to be about. Now, once we know what kind of quiz we're going to be building, we are going to go ahead and execute this Claude Assistant supernode that is going to create an assistant for us. Now, there's a couple of things happening here that you guys really need to understand in order to truly leverage this amazing piece of technologies. And more specifically, there are 2 things that you need to know. The first is that you need to structure your instructions really clearly and effectively. Okay, so if we open this up here, we have a prompt, and this is not a small prompt. This is a relatively complex, comprehensive prompt that essentially tells this assistant word by word exactly what it needs to do. And more specifically, it needs to create a quiz that's going to have 5 questions, and each question should include the question text, 4 possible answer choices labeled as A, B, C, and D, and the correct answer indicated from the previous choices. Okay, so that's the first part of the instruction. The second thing that we need to tell is we need to save this quiz that we're creating. Okay, we're not generating a quiz and then immediately outputting it. We need to save this quiz so that on the front end in our app, we can load this quiz and display to the users. Now I'm going to show you this proof of concept app in just a little bit. And so if you take a look at the second part of the prompt here, right, we are essentially telling it that we need immediate saving. Immediately after the quiz is created, pass the entire quiz object to the save quiz function. This function should ensure the quiz is formatted correctly, etc., etc. Now, if we go back to the flow, you're going to see the second part of this Claude assistant. And these are the functions. And this is what makes these assistants so amazingly powerful, is that you can create a function that does just about anything. And you can tell it, what the function should be doing in the prompt, okay? And because we're using BuildShip, we are not doing all of this from scratch, right? It's very, very tedious to do it from scratch, but it's a lot easier to simply add a function right here. So I have here a function called save quiz. And this is a function that saves things to our Supabase database. So if you see this icon right here, this is a Supabase icon. And all I really did was come in here, type Supabase, and I am basically creating a row right here. This is the node that I'm using, right? So if you click that, you're going to create this function here. And so I filled all of these out except this object here. Now pay attention here, okay? These 3 fields are fixed. Okay, so we have the API key, we have the API URL, we have the table name, but this thing here is not fixed because the AI is going to fill it in automatically. Okay, so if you click over here and you click again, we have some instructions, right? So it says here, how would you like AI to fill this value? And the input name is object. And now you need to describe the input type and format. And this is how you describe it. You say the JSON object is to be inserted into the table, and the field in the table is quiz data, right? So we're telling it, what we need to have inserted, and we're also telling it the name of the actual column, the actual field in the database that I'm going to show you in just a second. And once we do all of this, we are going to be generating a quiz and we're going to be automatically saving it into our database. And so if I jump into my database here, you can see that I have a bunch of quizzes here that were created as part of testing, right? So here I have a quiz called Card Trivia, and we have 5 questions with 4 choices each and a correct answer as well. And that way we can also show whether the question that they're answering is correct or not. Now, after you create this flow, the next thing that you want to do, even before you ship it, is you want to test it. So if you click over here, we're going to go into body, because remember, this is a post request method. That means it's expecting a body, and we can send a message. So create a quiz on Mexican history, or pretty much anything, right? So I can type anything that I want. And now I'm going to click on test workflow. Okay, so when I click on test workflow, this whole workflow is going to get executed, and we should hopefully have a quiz created and a quiz saved in our Supabase database. So as you can see, this is executing right now, and this is executing here, and this is the result that we're getting. The quiz has been successfully saved and is ready for use. Okay, so it's not displaying the quiz to us because we don't want it to display the quiz to us. We want it to save the quiz so that we can load it in our app. Okay, and so now if I jump into Supabase, we see another row, Mexican history, and you have a bunch of questions here, and you have some options as well as the correct answer for each of the questions. And what's cool about it is that it's in JSON format, which makes it super easy to load this whole thing in our app and display it via a nice UI. And so if we jump into our app right here, we have here a quiz me here, right? So this actually creates a quiz on the fly and redirects the user to that quiz. So let's go ahead and create a new session right here so that we can see the whole flow from beginning to end. All right, so here's our Flutterflow app. And what we need to do here is enter a quiz topic. So I'm going to say US history here. Okay, I'm going to press enter and it's sending a request. So it's generating the quiz. And when the quiz is ready to redirect us to the screen right here. And as you can see, this is the quiz here. Okay, so who was the first US president? Okay, so that's George Washington here. And if I select this, it is green. If I select this, it is red. So a nice little effect. Okay, so let's go through this quiz really quickly. What year was the Declaration of Independence signed? I want to say this, correct. This is incorrect. This is correct. Next. Which war was involved in the US fighting against the British? So that was this one, I think. Next. Who was the president? This one. Yes. And this one, I don't know. Okay, this one. All right, so there you go. A nice quiz generated that you can display for your users in any topic that you want, courtesy of this amazing BuildShip workflow. Now, the second app that I want to show you could be actually a great feature in my previous complex app that I built just recently. And if you haven't yet seen that app, you can see it right there. And this is a recommendation engine that can recommend different products to our users based on their order history. So let me jump into this workflow here. And here we are in this workflow. Okay, so this is a recommend workflow. We're using this Claude assistant. Okay, we have a different prompt, a completely different instructions. And we are also using a Supabase as our function. So a function we are using is called study order history. And the purpose here is to pull up the user's order history, look through it, and then generate some interesting recommendations for a specific category or a specific product that the person may be thinking in. So first, let me show you the instructions here. Okay, this is going to be fairly complex. So if we click over here and we open this up, you can see the instructions here. Now, I actually use ChatGPT to generate these instructions for me. Okay, I actually asked ChatGPT to help me come up with a very, comprehensive, complete instruction that tells this AI assistant, exactly how to behave, right? So it says here, objective, develop an AI assistant that uses a function, study order history to retrieve all the order history data, analyze the data, etc., etc. What you want to be paying attention to is these steps, right? These steps are very, very important. So step 1 is retrieve order history. Step 2, analyze order data. Step 3, generate product recommendations. And step 4, output recommendations. Okay, present the top 5 product recommendations. Okay, so we're still using a Supabase based function here. Okay, except now we're not saving anything into our Supabase database. We are looking things up. Right, this is a read operation. Now for the parameters here, we have the API key, the API URL, the table name, and the filter. We're not filtering anything. So essentially, we're pulling up all the records, right? So if we jump back into our Supabase database, we have this order items table, right, that we're looking into. And I actually have some sample data there, right? So if you take a look at this, we have some order IDs, and we have some product IDs, and we have various product names that I also asked ChatGPT to go ahead and generate all this. And by the way, if you're a member of our amazing Patreon community, I'm also going to be providing my ChatGPT conversation so that you can see exactly how I generated all of this, the prompts, and a lot of other things. There's a lot of goodies there. And I'm also going to be sharing my app as well as the BuildShip workflows, of course. And so as you can see, there's lots of products here that the person has purchased. And this order history makes for very good recommendations. So what we can do is we can test this workflow to make sure that everything works as expected. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to go into body. And here we have a sample message, right? So a message is what we're passing into this workflow via this REST API trigger. and it's, the message is recommend dairy products. Okay, so we're going to click on test workflow, and we are going to see what this system is going to recommend our user. Okay, so now it's executing this AI. It's studying the history. It finished this. And now it says, based on the provided order history, here are my top 5 dairy product recommendations: Greek yogurt, cheddar cheese, skim milk, almond milk, and Parmesan cheese. And we also have a front end for this recommendation flow. So if we jump back into our app and we click here, you can see that we have product recommendations, and it's asking us to enter a product. So I'm going to say dairy products. I'm going to say dairy product, press enter. It's sending a request. Let's wait for a little bit for it to complete. And now it says, based on the order history data, here are 5 personalized product recommendations for dairy products. So skim milk, cheddar cheese, Greek yogurt, Parmesan, almond milk. Okay. Now we can look through the list of past purchases and see if we can ask for another recommendation. So let's say meat or beef, right? Because I see that this user has purchased this beef product before, right? So we're going to jump back here and we're going to say meat. Recommend meat. Okay, press enter. And here it says, analyzing the order history, I can see that the customer has purchased the following meat products: chicken breast, salmon fillet, beef mince, chicken thighs. Okay, and this is what it's recommending: chicken breast, ground beef, pork chops, turkey breast, lamb chops. Okay, so this is an amazing use case for this AI assistant, because we are providing it with custom data and we're giving it a monster of a prompt, right? We're telling it exactly what we want, and we're feeding it the user's data from the user's past orders, right? Their order history data. And this is great because now you can add an AI element to an app that you're planning to build, or maybe the app that I've built, maybe you've cloned it. You can easily add this functionality courtesy of BuildShip. So a really, really solid workflow here as well. Now for this third app, this is an app that I wanted to build for quite a while. Well, maybe not quite a while, for about a couple of weeks. You see here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's actually almost summer, right? Summer is going to start in about a month. And I like beaches, right? I like to go to the beach. And so I wanted to build an app that will tell me a beach score based on the weather conditions, but also the water temperature, right? I don't want to go to the beach if it's sunny and nice, but the water is still cold. And this is exactly the kind of app I was able to build in just a couple of hours, thanks to BuildShip. And so if we jump to this workflow here, we have a new workflow, right? So this is a REST API call with a beach path. We're passing a post request, okay? And here we're using this Cloud Assistant, and we have a big prompt here as well. So take a look at this prompt right here. Objective: develop an AI assistant that retrieves air temperature and water temperature based on specific geographic coordinates, combines this information to describe the overall weather conditions, and rates the suitability of the day for a beach outing on a scale of 1 to 10. So I used ChatGPT to generate this entire prompt for me. I basically told it in a couple of words exactly what I want. So I have this big nice prompt. And the main difference with this workflow here is that unlike the previous workflows where we're only using one custom function, here we're using 2 custom functions, because the first custom function gets the air temperature. Okay, so I found a free API that I need to pass the geographic coordinates, so the latitude, longitude, and it's going to give me the air temperature. But that API does not provide the water temperature. So I researched and I found another API that gives me the water temperature, right? The sea surface temperature. And it's the same thing. You just pass it the coordinates and it will tell you the water temperature. Now with these 2 nodes, we cannot pass the actual city name, right? We need to pass the latitude and the longitude. And so this means that I can specify all of these parameters, but I need to have the AI figure out the latitude and the longitude for the query parameters because we need to calculate the latitude and longitude, but the user is asked to enter the city. And so that is why all the parameters are fixed except this query parameter, right? So if you click on this right here, you can see that we need data in JSON format with fields latitude, longitude, and this hourly temperature. This is actually a fixed field that the API expects. But these two need to be filled in automatically, okay? And this is exactly what it's doing. And same thing here. Every field is fixed except this one right here. So if we open this up, here it's in a different format, okay? Data in JSON format with field. This is what it wants. Lat long equals to. This needs to be replaced by the location's latitude, and this needs to be replaced by the location's longitude, okay? And so this can all be done with this AI, right? Thanks to BuildShip, because I don't need to go out and write code and do all that. I can just have it fill it in automatically, right? And if you have other parameters in other situations, in other use cases that you're not quite sure what they're going to be because they're going to be dynamic, you can also enable this AI autofill functionality, okay? So now we can test it out. So we're going to click on test, go into body, and all you need to send is a location, okay? So here I'm sending San Diego, California, which is a Southern California city that has nice beaches. So we're going to click on test workflow and let's see what it comes up. Let's see the beach score here. All right, so it's building this workflow right here. Now it's executing this here. It's executing this. It finished this. It's executing, and now we have the results. So I'm going to open this up, and this is what we have. Based on the weather data retrieved, the air temperature in San Diego is currently around 17 to 19 Celsius, 63 to 66 Fahrenheit. The water temperature is around 17 to 18 Celsius, which is not that hot, right? It's relatively chilly, but it's still swimmable. 63 to 64 Fahrenheit. So it says here, the weather conditions appear to be mild and comfortable, etc., etc. And it rates it as a 9 out of 10 for a beach day. So if you're living in San Diego or around San Diego, you can go ahead and have a nice beach day. Let's try something else. So if I click on test right here, I go into body. Let's say I'm going to type a Seattle. All right, so Seattle is relatively north, and I'm guessing the water temperature is not going to be as nice as in San Diego. So I'm going to click on test workflow right here. It's executing it right here. So it's executing this, it's executing these nodes here. We're going to open this up. And so it's telling us that the current air temp in Seattle is around 17, but the water temperature is only 10 to 11 Celsius, and that is pretty cold, right? That is fairly cold. And so it says I would rate the day as 6 out of 10 for a beach outing in Seattle. Okay, so there you have it. Now we can also jump into my Flutterflow app and use it this way, right? So this is this last page over here. So let's enter a location. Let me go ahead and enter Rio. So Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and let's see what the beach score is going to be. It's sending the request, and there we have it. So the air temp in Rio is currently 25 to 34 throughout the day, and the water temperature is 23 Celsius, okay, which is relatively comfortable for swimming. And so I would rate the suitability of the day for a beach outing in Rio as 8 out of 10. Okay, and then it explains a little bit more. Okay, let's try something else. How about we try Cancun, Mexico? Okay, I'm guessing it should be at least 9, right? Let's go ahead and see what happens, sending the request. And here we have the answer. Based on the weather data retrieved for Cancun, the air temp is currently 32 degrees Celsius and the water temp is 28 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's 9 out of 10. Okay, that sounds like a nice beach experience. And last but not least, let's try Miami Beach, Florida. If I had to guess, it should also be 9 out of 10. Let's go ahead and execute this right here. And there you have it. The current air temp in Miami Beach, Florida is around 30 degrees Celsius. The water temperature is 26 to 27 degrees Celsius, and that's also 9 out of 10 right there. Now, being able to build such apps is awesome, but it can get fairly complicated if you're not willing to use tools that make it super easy for you. And BuildShip is a tool that makes it really, really easy to kind of combine the data that you need and create an amazing prompt that can look at the data, whether it's internal or external, and give you the answer that you're seeking for. And this is what no code is all about. It's not about coding. It's not about writing code. It's about solving problems and using these amazing assistants that are built into BuildShip here as nodes makes the whole process hassle-free and actually very, very fun, because this is an app that I wanted to build for a little while. I just wasn't sure how hard and complex it would be to do so until I realized that I can simply use BuildShip and its nodes here that are connected to the assistant to get the data that I need and to have a prompt that outputs the kind of result that I'm looking for. So this made it super easy to do it. And obviously we're merely scratching the top of the surface, right? The key here, the main takeaway that I want you guys to have is that you have this amazing logic, this intelligence that you can leverage, right? This AI that you can leverage to solve all kinds of problems with your data, with your functions on demand, exactly how you want it, when you want it, where you want it, etc., etc. And this is kind of the main takeaway here. And you can easily create these workflows here to do just that. Now, this video is about using BuildShip workflows. I mainly glossed over my Flutterflow app, although there's some interesting techniques there that I've employed to show the quizzes, to show other data. And so if you want to go further, if you want to keep going, you want to be able to clone that app, you want to be able to get all the resources that I talked about in this video, you will be able to do so from my amazing Patreon page. Because when you become a member of our amazing Patreon community, you're not only going to be getting access to the resources that I talked about in this video, you're also going to get other resources that I talked about before. So all my apps, including a series of complex apps that I built over the course of running this channel, and all kinds of apps in between, simple apps, complex apps, and all kinds of niches. And that means when you're trying to build the app that you need to build, you don't need to start from scratch and you don't need to reinvent the wheels. Plus, you're also going to get some extra content such as Q&As, behind the scenes, our Patreon supported masterclass series where I do deep dives on different topics that the community votes. And in fact, I'm going to be doing another masterclass very, very shortly. And I know I'm covering a very, very important topic that many of you have been requesting for quite some time now. So if you want to get access to that, you want to get access to all of these apps, you want to connect with other ambitious no-code developers, ask questions, get answers, then you definitely need to check out our amazing Patreon community and consider becoming a member. And you can do just that via the first link in the description below the video.